All right, so this is number 1 on Trig 12, and they want you to graph y equals 4 times the sine of x. And before you start doing any of your graphing, the easiest thing to do is first write down what is the amplitude. Well, remember the amplitude is your A value. It's always a positive value. In this case, it is positive, but my amplitude is 4. And then it asks you what the period is. And remember, your period is always going to be equal to 2 pi over the absolute value of b. And your b is always what's in front of the word sine. Well, I'm sorry, that's not true. It's in front of, it's after the sine, but before the x. In this case, it's going to be 1 because there is nothing there. So just to be clear, the formula would be y equals a, which is your amplitude, times the sine of bx. So between the word sine and x is going to be your b value. In this case, it's 1. So that means your period is simply 2 pi. So that means you're going to, because it's a sine curve, you're going to start at 0, and you're going to end at 2 pi. And if I want to do 2 cycles, then I can kind of go over here and go negative 2 pi. So I know I start at 0, end at 0, and halfway in between, I'm going to be 0 again. So I know halfway between 0 and 2 pi is simply going to be pi. And then because it's a sine curve, the way the pattern goes is I'm going to be at 0 at these 3 points. Between the first and the second point, I'm going to be at the amplitude, which in this case is 4. And halfway in between 0 and pi would be pi over 2. And then halfway in between pi and 2 pi, I'm going to be at my negative amplitude, so that would be negative 4. And this would be 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2. This would be 3 pi over 2. And then I can just kind of connect my dots here. And that would be 1 cycle. If I wanted to do 2 cycles, I would just kind of mirror this side over into the negative quadrant, where this would be negative pi over 2. And this here would be negative pi. And this would be negative 3 pi over 2. And now from here, I would go down to the negative amplitude, up to 0, and then up to the positive amplitude and back down to 0. So I would just kind of continue my curve this way. And the only thing different is if it was a cosine curve, instead of starting at 0, you'd start at the amplitude, you'd end at the amplitude, halfway in between you'd be at your negative amplitude, and then halfway in between those two you'd be at 0. I hope this helps.